Hello and welcome to my channel. I hope you enjoy the story. This was written by a real human. So please leave a like if you enjoy it to help the channel and subscribe for future content. It's free. Links to the story and Patreon will be in the description. Please go and support the author. Any support is always appreciated. If a human narrator would like to narrate my stories, please contact me. I write these in my spare time between work and my children and just don't have the time or quiet space to narrate them myself. I hope you can understand. Thanks for your time, and again I hope you enjoy the story. And for the love of everything YouTube, this is literature, so please leave my channel alone. Let's get into it, folks. Gregory belly crawled to the first T intersection and carefully peeked first one way and then the other, leading with his pulse pistol. He was followed by Private Jin, a Jabalix, who didn't even have to crouch to traverse the ventilation shafts. Behind him was Sergeant Faith, and behind her was Lieutenant Bars. They had shut down the connecting ventilation shafts at the main junction after isolating which section held the stowaway infestation. He motioned the all clear and signaled to Private Jin and Sergeant Faith to go right. Lieutenant Bars motioned to follow him down the left. Lieutenant Bars, a Dax with her crocodilian-like appearance, could see better than Gregory in the low ambient blue light produced by the ion cables running throughout the ventilation systems, but had been nailed earlier by an open conduit that she had inadvertently grazed with her shoulder. She had refused to turn back though, shrugging it off like any of her other companions would. Something moved at that next junction. She whispered behind Gregory. He paused for a moment, nodded and pulled out his stiletto, holding it in his off hand along with the light, as he eased himself up to the junction, one going straight and another to the right. He took a steadying breath at the junction. Something made him pause just as he was about to commit to looking around the edge down the right. An image of Orion motioning for him to wait flashed in his mind. Click click clack kilcla. A lot of something loud and bright slammed into the side of the shaft. Acrid smoke filled the intersection, and as the sound stopped he lunged around the corner, squeezing off 4 rapid shots with his pulse pistol. The weapon whirred, as its short stubby barrel spit yellowish sizzling beams. The broodling in front of him looked like a fuzzy earth-sized basketball with 100 little segmented legs, a disturbingly human mouth filled with razor-sharp fangs and a dozen beady eyes. Several open orifices appeared to be refilling with pointy white bone-like chitin spikes. He nicked it as it fled farther into the shaft, and it emitted a high-pitched screech as it disappeared out of his light's radius. And it stank. He had to swallow his gag reflex as he pressed forward. More scurrying was taking place ahead, and the hairs on the back of his neck were standing on end. "Why the hell does it have to smell like sulfur?" asked Lieutenant Bars, her snout wrinkling in disgust. They pressed forward and could hear the echoes of Sergeant Faith and Private Jin engaging with the broodlings off to the right. Pretty soon Gregory could see light coming through from that way, and soon Private Jin popped his head out and, seeing them to the right, yelled, "All clear." Moving to the next section. Acknowledged, moving out. Bars, do you feel up for lead? As she nodded and turned around in the cramped space, it took him a moment to get his broader figure turned around, but quickly managed to catch back up. They turned back right, soon coming to a vertical shaft leading up. Lieutenant Bars checked down and up before easily transitioning upwards onto the built-in ladder. Gregory was just about to make the transition himself when all hell broke loose. Lieutenant Bars let out a shit, and Gregory heard her pulse pistol discharge as she fired repeatedly. A horrendous screeching came from above, as well as more cursing from Lieutenant Bars. "I'm hit." He couldn't see what was happening and didn't want to hamper Bars if she needed to retreat. He popped his head out to look downward long enough to see it was still clear. He quickly slipped out and positioned himself low enough to give her access, and braced himself to lean out to see past Bars' lithe reptilian form. The first thing he thought was, oh great, if they weren't nightmare fuel enough, now they were mutating. But then he noticed baseball-sized growths falling off whatever the hell kind of broodling that was, and Bars shooting 2 of the 3 small spheres as they fell towards him. The remaining one flung its small segmented legs out, latching onto Lieutenant Bars. She let out a yelp as she lost her grip and slammed into him. And then everything bucked violently. He almost lost his stance but managed to catch Lieutenant Bars, who had managed to grab the miniature broodling that had landed on her, and it let out a little squeak as she smashed it in her 3-fingered fist. Gah! She let out as he pushed her into the vent, already firing his pistol upwards. The mutated broodling let out another loud squeal as he hit it dead center with the second shot. And it fell with a loud splush, as it burst apart upon hitting his stiletto blade. "Ah shit," he said, trying to wipe the orange ichor off his face. He had seen that coming but couldn't have done much about it. "You alright, Bars?" he spluttered. "By everything in the great egg Grigeki, you smell like shit," she said, gagging but managing to keep her last meal down. "Somehow. It shot me with some sort of tooth. Fucker could have tried to bite me like a real predator, but no, gotta be a little." She cleared her throat. "It burns, but I think I can manage. Let's finish this." He nodded, starting up the ladder. "I have point." They hadn't even made it to the next level yet and he could hear scurrying. He popped up above the lip of the next landing and his reflexes saved him from getting a broodling in his face. The alien had already been airborne when he cleared the lip. He put 2 pulse rounds into it and as his cartridge clicked empty he hurriedly ejected it and slid another into the handle that he produced from his belt. Just in time to take several legs off another trying to scurry away. It continued to squeal as he made his way onto the landing and close enough to stab it with his stiletto, silencing it. "That sounds so much like a pig it's almost uncanny." "What's a pig?" asked Lieutenant Bars, making her way onto the landing. "Bacon," was all he said and she instantly started to nod. That was one of the few exports her people found exceptionally worthy of import, they just couldn't import the live animals. He pressed his communicator and asked, "How close to the scrubbers are you, Sergeant Faith?" 2 minutes, came her reply. "Roger that, we'll wait to breach. Send a signal when you get there." Grigeki said as Bars and himself took position on either side of the access panel leading into the second oxygen scrubber of the pair identified as being infested. Even over the sound of the large pumps in the room, he could make out their clicking and clacking. A hole the size of a basketball was chewed through the access panel into the room. Grigeki had put his light back into his belt, while Bars grasped the latch ready to swing the panel open. "Breach, breach, breach," came over his communicator and they burst into action. As Bars threw open the access hatch, Grigeki leapt out, glad he could finally stretch out from being cramped, clearing the ventilation shafts over the last couple hours, instantly killing 2 of the broodlings caught by surprise. A third mutated one took 4 rounds as Bars stepped out behind him, barely having time to place her back against his. And then all hell erupted in the room as broodlings and the slightly larger mutated ones squealed and surged forward on their multiple segmented legs, and he felt a burning sensation in his thigh as something hit him. Adrenaline started pumping and he went into reflexively shooting and stabbing them as anything got within his reach. Behind him, he heard Bars grunt and something splattered as it slammed into the bulkhead next to them. And then the Phoenix bucked violently, harder than before, and he was thrown on the ground, losing his pulse pistol. He stabbed a broodling that landed beside him and quickly swiped it back around to catch another as it landed on him. Seeing Bars grab one and throw it off her shoulder, she raised herself to her knee and started to stand. He spotted his pistol and lunged for it, slicing several legs off an enemy as it missed its mark and flew past him. As his hand grasped the handle, another sharp pain pierced his calf and he let out a yelp as he used the wall to stand up. He instantly looked back at his partner. She had purple blood from multiple scratches and puncture wounds along her rough skin but continued to fire at the enemy broodlings infesting the room. He shot a broodling that scurried onto the ceiling above them. He couldn't say how many more they killed over the next 20 or 30 minutes but soon heard cursing over the broodling squealing and then made out Private Jin standing on Sergeant Faith's shoulder as they made their way towards them. Both of them fired at something substantial moving after them. Seeing this, Lieutenant Bars started towards them. Grigeki cleared 4 more off the wall near the large pump in rapid succession and as nothing else moved started towards the rest of his companions, slowly, limping. It looked like he'd gotten hit several times and still hadn't really felt them. Other than the one in his hip, that one hurt deep every time he took a step. As he neared his companions, he could make out the focus of his companions' fire. It somewhat looked like a normal broodling, except it was the size of an earth horse. Its segmented legs were large enough and strong enough that they left indentions on the floor as it crawled forward, somehow immune to the pulse pistol's energy slugs. The ship jarred suddenly as if struck hard. Warning klaxons wailed and red lights flashed suddenly. Over the ship's comms, Grigeki heard, "Tyson. Brace for impact." Crackle through the ship's comms. Grigeki thought, if the pulse pistols won't do anything, hold fire. Move to melee. He yelled, gritting his teeth as he somehow managed to jump at the abomination, slowly, deliberately making its way towards them. Just then a white light illuminated everything so bright he was temporarily blinded mid-leap. He remembered his advanced combat training though, and kept a mental image of the creature in relation to where it should have been and felt the satisfaction of feeling his stiletto bite deep into its fleshy inner core. When he drew his pistol arm up to block one of the creature's legs as it struck at him, he felt something snap in it, followed by extreme pain as it spaghetti noodled around the segmented appendage of the massive broodling. He let out a scream of pain as he violently and repeatedly stabbed the beast over and over as he barreled into its large furry abdomen, leading with his stiletto. He was struck again. Something hit his broken arm shoulder and pierced through it as his entire 240-pound body was whipped back through the air and downwards into the floor with enough force to slam the breath out of him. He could see Sergeant Faith pull out her knife and run at the oversized broodling as the spots in his vision from the pain began to clear, but everything went belly up as it whipped him back up and threw him at the onrushing sergeant. He felt his stiletto slip from his wet, bloody fingers as he slammed into the floor in front of Sergeant Faith. She managed to roll out of the way, but he caught Lieutenant Barr's right leg with his foot as he went past, and they went down in a tangled mess of arms and legs. Gregory almost lost consciousness but managed to pull a tourniquet strip off his belt and placed it on his shoulder as quickly as he could one-handed. Lieutenant Barrs extracted herself fairly quickly and leaped at the behemoth herself. He let out a yell of excruciating pain as the nano strip touched ends and began to instantly pinch the blood flow off as it synced itself tighter and tighter and finally stopped. His shoulder felt like it was being squeezed off, but he didn't have any medifoam, so this would have to do while his nanites worked. Emergency lighting flashed on and off, and Gregory could see his three companions struggling with the broodling behemoth as it managed to fend off their physical attacks. He could see his companions getting thrashed. He tried to stand and managed to make it to his knees awkwardly. His adrenaline spent. He spotted his stiletto not far away and painfully shuffled over to it. Every movement sending waves of excruciating pain through his body. As his fingers clasped around the hilt, a warm fuzzy sensation invaded his mind. He had fought it until now, not wanting to be distracted, but he was exhausted, wounded multiple times and desperate to help his team. Fine then. He managed to groan through his clenched teeth. Help me, help them, and I'll give you what you want. It seemed as if the fuzzy sensation lessened then. We will help you now, you will help us. Willingly. Came the hesitant voice of Arnsa. Gregory took a painful breath. He might have a few cracked ribs to add to his list of injuries. Yes, I will help you both if you can help me save my team. The fuzziness faded for a moment and then he heard both of the Viril sisters at the same time. We will try to block your pain, this will hurt you more later, Kalchalalka. They giggled as they used their race's slang term for teddy bear, or personal plaything depending on how it was used. You are an apex warrior with instincts we do not know how to begin to use. Combat will be completely on you, it will take everything we have to block the pain. There was a pause as it sounded like the sisters played a quick game of mental rock paper scissors before Arnsa says, You're going to feel something in a moment, when you do, make your move. Then Orellana piped in, flashing him an image of where the behemoth broodling's heart was located behind a larger central eye. Strike hard and fast. We will try to send more help. Understood. He managed as he gathered what strength he had left. The entire telepathic exchange between the sisters only took seconds. Gregory suddenly felt nothing, no pain, no exhaustion, no fear. Nothing. As he lunged upwards from his knee, he could feel muscles tearing more as he damaged them on the bone projections he had been hit with. With a roar that seemed to startle the behemoth, he rushed past Sergeant Faith and Lieutenant Barrs, painfully redirecting his weight around a swiping segmented leg as he aimed everything he could muster into that one shot. He hit it dead center, his arm sinking halfway up to his forearm before he managed to hit it with his body, barreling into it and stopping its forward momentum. The squeal it emitted as it thrashed and snapped with its jaws and segmented legs was ear-piercing. Sergeant Faith was hit and launched into the bulkhead with a loud scream and a shit. He was bitten and flung back and forth like his pet chihuahua Hank did to his favorite squeaky toy back home. He couldn't feel anything, so he just kept trying to press the stiletto farther and farther in until the beast stopped moving. His leg was mangled, he couldn't make himself look at it. Without a doubt that was going to take a Regan treatment or two. Help is coming. Came Arnsa's voice in his head. Captain, Commander Wallace reports Sergeant Gregory and his team were successful. The infestation was dealt with. She paused. Dr. Lee requests universal donors be asked for plasma. Sir Sergeant Gregory's team is in bad shape. His XO reported. Get them whatever they need. How long until we get generators back online? Engineering. Captain Gregory found himself bellowing. All they could give him was a, working on it, sir. They couldn't blink if they didn't have power, and that engine core being destabilized and having to be ejected had caused a massive EMP wave. They hadn't been far enough away for them not to be affected. Thankfully, everything on board was naturally hardened against them. However, that did mean new circuits and servos had to be installed in certain systems. Not normally a problem, but the Phoenix held a truly unknown number of civilians on her as well as captives. It was hampering his engineers and techs, but they were managing. He watched his timer 1 minute 2-3. Engine back online. Main generator spooling up. 4 minutes 5. Systems coming fully online, Captain. Reported his command stations. He looked at the TAC screen as it flickered back to life. Enemy ship appears to have shields back up. They're not showing much output, but it's there. Systems registering secondary generators in the opposite hemisphere are trying to compensate. His TAC officer reported. Engineering? He looked at his engineering station and could see CME Victor growing angrier as he received a time frame he didn't like. He looked at Gregory and shook his reptilian head back and forth. He knew they were working on it. Writing them wouldn't make it get done any faster. All he could do was wait. He glanced at the Admiral. The man was looking at the schematics for the moon ship on his communicator and rubbing his chin deep in thought. Captain, blink drive realigned. CME Victor's gruff voice announced. Initiate blink. Let's head home. He ordered. The warning klaxon signaling a blink was about to happen started wailing, and the XO announced blink imminent. Brace. And everything seemed to twist in on itself for a second. All sound was nullified by the intense gravitational warping for a moment, and quickly rushed to catch back up as they rematerialized roughly 50,000 light-years away. It would take 5 more blinks to reach U.S. Alliance territory and possibly 6 before they could reach help. All systems reading good, Captain. Respooling blink drive in. You're kidding me? His XO looked up at engineering and narrowed her eyes. All right, understood, do what you can. She looked at Captain Gregory and said, 2 hours, sir. Engineering reports they rushed the last blink and now the system needs additional repairs. Contacts reading the Neptune and the New York as well as the Paula heavy freighter. TAC announced. Gregory nodded his head. They got us out of there, tell them to take the time they need and do it right. Comms send the New York and the Neptune a transmission requesting they take some civilians on board to help ease our systems. Tell them if they give you any trouble as discreetly as you can manage that we're running at 147% maximum capacity at the moment. Thanks for listening. Please leave a like and hit the subscribe button if you enjoyed the story. If you feel generous and want to support the author's work, go visit the Patreon link in the description. Any support is welcome. Until next time.